Hello everyone. I hope you are all safe. And my name is Vrijraj, and I'm a Google developer expert for web technology and Firebase. And I have some leading GDG Jalandhar community in Punjab region. And I'm a content creator for Tech Environment. And today I'm going to talk about Vue.js. So last in the previous day we have talked about the front end technologies like how we can create front end web applications with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, where you can create a structure with the help of your HTML means the prototype or the layout. And if you want to design your web page, you can use CSS. And if you want to add some interactivity, or maybe if you want to make some interactive web page, or if you want to perform some actions, you can use JavaScript part. And then we have talked about the roadmap, like how we can be a web front end engineers, like front end developer. So first you need to have a core knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then you can go for the front end frameworks or the library. So we have talked about Vue.js, Angular, React, and the Bootstrap. So today I'm going to talk about Vue.js, like why we are using, what are the companies and why to use Vue.js, and what are the Vue.js, and what are the scope for career in Vue.js. So let's start it. So today I'm going to talk about, like, first is what is Vue.js. Like, as you know, like Vue.js is already a web framework, front-end framework. With the help of this framework, you can create a web interface or single-page applications with the help of Vue. And then we'll talk about why Vue is the most popular framework for the web technologies. And the third one is we'll talk about how we can set up the Vue.js part. And then fourth is there are a lot of companies are using Vue.js for the productions. So there are some opportunities where you can be a part of as a Vue developer, Vue.js developer. And then we'll talk about the career scope. So let's get started. So Vue.js is a lightweight progressive framework. Lightweight progressive framework means, like, whenever you are creating a large scale applications, for example, as you know already, like we can create a web page with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But let's say I want to create 100 pages with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So these 100 pages are not easy in terms of management, or writing some code or modifications, or like deployment, or managing the data. So that's why framework came into the picture, and Vue.js is one of the front-end framework. With the help of, you can create light progressive JavaScript web applications. And Vue.js is approachable just because of, like, if you have a knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, just a basic level of fundamental knowledge, like you know how we can create HTML pages, you know how to create a CSS classes, or the concept how can use the concept of ID and the classes. And you know the basic fundamental about the JavaScript, like how we can create a variable, how we can call the functions. So you can easily go with the Vue.js, and this is approachable. And again, this is a versatile in terms of, like, there are a lot of developer ecosystem who are adopting Vue.js for the production ready applications. And the third one is most important part is Vue.js is it's a performant. Like if I talk about the Vue.js as compared to the other framework, the library size of Vue.js is around 20 KB. This is very less as compared to the other framework. And now next is I'll talk about, like, why Vue.js. Like there are a lot of frameworks. So like first one is easy. It is easy to create a front end web applications or maybe single page applications with the help of Vue.js. Just because of, if you have a knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can start your building your web application with the help of Vue.js. I'll give you the demo, like how we can create a simple web application with the help of Vue.js. And the second one part is it is easy to learn and implement all the best practices for the web development and while building your web applications. And the third one part, like as I mentioned, like the size of the library is around 20 KB, which is very fast, lightweight, and progressive. And with the help of Vue.js, you can create highly performant applications. Like if you can check out the performance speed on Lighthouse or maybe Google Page Speed Tools, your website will be very fast if you are working on Vue.js. So now, if I talk about the popularity level in the GitHub, so we have Vue as Vue star. Like if there are 187K plus GitHub repository star on Vue.js repository, and then we have a React, which is another framework for creating. It's not a framework; it's a JavaScript library for creating a front-end web applications. And these all are the stars like 173K plus. And then we have a Angular, which is a framework, and this is a star 75K plus. So if I talk about popularity point of view, like Vue is a topmost popular framework in the world, which is adapting or migrating. There are a lot of companies who are migrating other technologies to the Vue.js just because of the popularity as well as the performance part. And the next one part is how we can use Vue.js. So I can give you the example, like if you have an experience with Bootstrap, so we can use Bootstrap, like we can add some CSS JavaScript library in our web page, and then we can use the Bootstrap. So similarly, you can create a Vue.js application in two ways. First one is you can import the JavaScript library of Vue.js in your HTML page, and then you can work on it, and that's it. And the second one part is like Vue is providing a Vue CLI. CLIs with the help of Vue CLI, you can create a Vue applications, and then you can work on it. So in this session, I'm going to talk about like how we can create a Vue.js application with the help of Vue.js JavaScript library, and then we will create a simple application based on it. The next one part is like example, like I'll give you the example like how Vue is like most popular as well as the simple as compared to the another things, the frameworks. So like as you know, like in JavaScript we can create a JavaScript like we can write the JavaScript code inside the script tag, and inside script tag we can create a Vue instance. So this is a Vue is a predefined uh, a class in JavaScript Vue library, and inside we can pass the JavaScript object, and here we can create a Vue instance. So this is a EL element, means this Vue instance will work on app as a div element whose ID is app. And then we can create a div element, like inside this particular div element we can write some logic related to Vue.js. So first we need to create an instance for the Vue.js, and then we can define the element on which element I need to work on Vue.js part. So let's say I have defined the ID as an app, and here we have a EL as which is stand for the element, and then we have defined the ID, and that's it. And similarly, you can define the data. Let's say I have defined the data. So let's say data is message, and where we have a value, let's say hello world or hello view, and then we can print the data in the HTML part with the help of double curly braces, and that's it. So like if you have experience with Angular or maybe React or with JavaScript, so like if I talk about core JavaScript, so first you need to create an ID, and then you need to write a logic document or get element by ID, and then you need to use the method inner HTML, and then you can print the JavaScript data with the help of HTML part. But if you are using Vue.js, you just need to create a Vue instance, and then you can define the element, which element will be responsible for running your Vue instance, and then you can define the data property. Here we can pass the data, and then we can print the data with the help of double curly braces. Okay. So now I'll talk about like there are a lot of companies who are using Vue.js for the production ready applications. Like if I talk about Google, so Google is using Vue.js application for Vue.js as a front-end framework for creating a production ready web applications. So similarly, Apple is adopting this ecosystem for building their web interfaces. And similarly, there is a company, Dribble, and Adobe who are using Vue.js for building their web application. Then we have a BMW, Trivago, Namecheap, Zoom. There are a lot of companies who are using Vue.js for the production ready applications. So I hope you have visited this link like careers.google.com or Google Careers website, which is basically built on Vue.js, and like you can check out the functionalities. Like this website is very smooth, performant, just because of they are using Vue.js. And yeah, the next. And there is a one more website made with Vue.js. If you can go to the Google and just type made with Vue.js, and there are n number of websites who are built with Vue.js. You can check out these website collections, data, and you can also submit your project like if you have built with Vue.js. And then if I talk about the job opportunities, so we have a like website Vue.js jobs, And here you can check out the job opportunities, and as well as there are a lot of MNCs who are using Vue.js. And you can mostly use Vue.js for creating a web applications, or maybe if you want to create a portfolio, you can use Vue.js, or if you want to create some dashboard, you can also use Vue.js. And if I talk about the geographical presence of Vue.js, so Vue.js is the most popular framework right now in the China region, and then other countries, let's say USA, UK, India, is adopting this particular framework just because of the popularity as well as the size of the library. And if I talk about the performance point of view, this is the most popular framework. So you can check out these details about Google Trends. So Google Trends is a like website where you can check out the data. Like if I'm comparing this framework with like Angular and React, so blue line is stand for Vue, and then we have a yellow is for React and red is for Angular. So if I talk about here in August 15 to August 21, so like Vue is the top most popular framework as of now, and then we have a React, and then we have a Angular. This one is related to popularity. You can check out the informations like in France, UK, Belgium, Netherlands. There are a lot of developers who are working on Vue.js. And similarly, you can check out the reasons, like we have a China region here. We have a lot of developers who are working on Vue.js. And then we have a Angular related data or React related data. So China is having a topmost developers. So like most of the developers are working on China region. Okay, so if I talk about pros and cons, like as I mentioned, like Vue.js is a lightweight, progressive framework. With the help of Vue.js, you can create a fast, performant web applications, and Vue is providing features like where you can create a component. Component is just like whenever we are creating 100 pages of applications, or maybe you are creating a web pages for 100. Let's say page one is for XYZ details, page two for XYZ details. So these are the 100 pages, and you can create a separate HTML file for the navigation bar, and then you can import that navigation bar in 100 pages. So these separate bar file will be considered as a component. So you can reuse your HTML code or JavaScript code or CSS code in multiple pages. So this is a part of component. And here in Vue.js, you can also create a component, and you can reuse those things. And that is very easy for you, and you can easily create a simple web application with the help of Vue.js. And again, like Vue.js is a framework, and they are providing a lot of services like routing modules, data management, and these services are maintained by Vue official team. Like there will be a no third party services, like if you are working on Vue.js. Like if you are working on React, so you have to import the routing library, which is not an official part of React as a library. So, and again, like Vue is a fast rendering and minimal load time in terms of performance. And in India, like if I talk about for the job perspective, yeah, there are very few companies who are using Vue. Like you can check out like GitLabs, GitHub, and there is a company, Apple, who is using Vue.js. So like if you can check out the job opportunities in Apple Hyderabad, so they are looking for an engineer who has experience in Vue.js. And yeah, and right now in India, we have very few developer communities who are working on the Vue.js. So this is a time where you can invest if you want. You can create a web application with the help of Vue.js, and you can grow your network. And now I'll talk about like how we can create a simple web application with the help of Vue.js. I'll share my screen. If you have any doubt, questions, you can ask your questions right now, or maybe we can proceed to the whole part. Okay, so first, okay, so this is a website, Vue.js. Like if you can go just search Google on Google, like we have a Vue.js as a framework, and then you can redirect to this particular website, vue.js.org. And here we have a definition, like this is a progressive means with the help of Vue.js, you can easily create web applications with the help of Vue.js, and this is approachable just because of if you have a basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can create that application. And the versatile is just because of the ecosystem developer and the performance in terms of the size of their library. Now I'll click on the Get Started button, and here we have our definitions and the some content. So what I'll do here, I'll just go to the installation part, and then here we have a JavaScript library for Vue.js. So here we have a two library for the JavaScript. Like if right now we are building Vue.js web applications, so you can use this library, because inside this library there will be a console warning where you can get the information related to bugs and all. Or if you are using like if you want to deploy your website, then you can use this library for the production purpose, and the size will be very less and the speed will be very high. So what I'll do right now, we are building Vue.js applications, and there is one more thing, like you can check out the website, let's say techdrill.gdgjalandhar.com. This website is built on Vue.js, as well as there are a lot of companies we have created website we have created with the help of Vue.js. So yeah, so I'll show you how we can create a Vue.js applications. So right now I have created a folder name is Vue.js, and I can open this folder with the help of VS Code Editor, which is an IDE where you can use for writing your HTML or web development related code. So this is the ID, and here we have ID. Okay, so now I'll create an index.html page. So I'll create index.html page. And here we can write HTML syntax. So here we have a skeleton for HTML. So I'm using HTML5. We have idoc type, and then we have a head section where we can define the property about our web page, means the title, description, metadata. Here we can do that. And then we have a body section where we can add the data, let's say HTML tag and all. So what I'll do here, I'll just type h1 for heading, and this one is for view 01. Okay, and then we can write some paragraph. We can use Laura Pepson as a content, and then I'll save. I can open this web page on my Chrome browser. So here I'll open in this index.html page, and this is visible. Okay, so now the next step is I need to load this JavaScript library for the Vue.js. So I'll just copy this JavaScript library and I will paste it here, and that's it. So now you can easily create a web application with the help of Vue.js. The next one part is you need to create a Vue instance. So what I'll do here, I will write the script tag, and inside the script tag we can write a logic for Vue.js. Okay, so if you have any questions, doubt, you can ask your questions right now, or I can move to the next part. Okay, awesome. So just 2 minutes. Okay, so now here I will create a Vue instance. Vue instance is just like there is a Vue is a predefined class which is written in this JavaScript library. So we will create a Vue instance. So how we can create a Vue instance? We can create a Vue instance. So let's say my instance name is my app. Okay, and is equal to, and with the help of new keyword, you can create an instance. Instance is just like as an object, and then we have a predefined class which class name is Vue, and inside this class we can pass some parameter. So let's say I'm passing some object, and inside Vue instance we can define a property. This is a curly braces, so that will work as a JavaScript object, and inside this JavaScript object we can define the property. So my first property EL stands for the element, which element on HTML page will be controlled by this Vue instance. So we can define, let's say I'll add the element name is, let's say, app. Okay, so now here what I'll do here, I will create a div element. Here we have a div element, and then I can wrap this div element inside this part. Okay, now I can define the ID. So here we have an ID, and we just copy this ID and then this one. So this Vue instance will control this div element whose ID is app. Okay, Now I will save, and then we can have another property. The next property is data property. Here we can define the data about Vue.js. So let's say you can create a JavaScript variable with the help of let or const or maybe where keyword. So similarly, inside Vue instance, we have a data. So you can define the data with the help of data property, and then we can use curly braces. So let's say I'm defining some variable name is message, and again this is a JavaScript object. So here we have a key value pair. So I'll type welcome to you. Okay, and then we can print that data. Let's say I wanted to print this message as a property. So I can use double curly braces and the message part, and that's it. So what I do, I will save and just reload the page, and here we have a data. Okay, so this is very easy. But if I talk about like if I want to use the regular JavaScript part, like how we can print the Vue JavaScript variable with the help of HTML. So what we can do, like we can create a JavaScript variable with the help of let keyword. So we have a let keyword here. Let's say I'm defining a JavaScript variable a, and the value is 34, and we can print the value of a here in the JavaScript. So what I'll do here, we can define the p tag, and then we can define the ID as a, let's say ID is data. Okay, now we need to write a logic for like printing a data. So we have a document, and then we need to use document.get element ID. So basically I'm getting the DOM element whose ID is data. So here we can pass the ID. And then we have a method inner HTML. So we can pass the inner HTML, and then we can pass the value a is equal to 34. So here we need to write this type of code for printing a data, uh, and then we can print the data 34 here. But if you are using Vue.js, so Vue.js, you just need to define the variable, and then you can print the variable with the help of double curly braces, and that's it. So that's why Vue.js is very simple. Like you just need to create a Vue instance, and inside Vue instance, we can define the data property, and here we have a data. So you can define the multiple data. Let's say I'm defining a variable a, the value is 34, or maybe you can define the variable a, the value is maybe 3, and then you can define the variable, let's say the value is 4. Okay, and then you can also print the data. So I'll create a p tag here. So I'll write value of a is equal to, and we can print the data with the help of double curly braces, and inside we can pass the value, the name of your variable. So like my data properties is a. So similarly we can print the value of b. So here we can write b, and then we can write b, and I will save and then reload. So this is how my logic is working. Okay, and also like if you want to perform some arithmetic operations, you can write like sum of a. A means the variable a, sum of a and b. So I can print the b value is equal to sum. How we can calculate the sum, a plus b, and yeah, that's it. So I will save, and then we got a result 3 plus 4 is equal to 7. And so this is a very simple, if you are creating a web application with the help of Vue.js, where this is a part of data binding. You can bind your data with the help of double curly braces. Okay, now I'll talk about the next one part is like how we can perform the actions. Like if you are working on vanilla JavaScript, so we have to use on-click method, or maybe you can use add event listener for performing actions on JavaScript. But if you are working on Vue.js, so you can use the on-click method. So I'll show you an example. Let's say I'm creating a button, and I want to increase the value of a. Let's say I wanted to increase a. I'll create a button INCA, or maybe we can write A plus. Okay. So when we click on this particular button, I want to increase the value of A. So you can easily increase the value of A. What you have to do here, you just need to write @symbol, and then we can use click, or you can use v hyphen on colon click. Means I'm clicking on this particular button, and then we can perform some actions. So you can perform some actions. Let's say my function's name is increase data. Okay, and then we can define this method or maybe functions inside method block. So here we have a data block. Here we can define the data property, and then we have a method block. Okay, so here we have a method work, and here we can define the function's name. My function's name is increment data, and why I wanted to increase the value of a. So you can increase the value of a is equal to, let's say I cannot access this a directly. So you just need to use this variable and dot a. When we click on the value of this a, then I want to increase the value of a. Okay. So I'll reload the button page, and then when I click on this particular button, this will automatically increase the value and sum also. Okay, so you can create a similarly button for decrementing the data of, let's say, B. So you can do that. Here we can write DEC, and then here we can write B minus for decrementing the data. So here we have a method. So you can define another method here, and then you can write this dot B minus minus. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just reload. When I click on the A++, so value is increasing by 1. And then when I click on B minus, so number is decreasing. Okay, so is there any confusion or doubt, like how we can create a Vue instance and how we can print the data and how we can call the methods, or maybe we can consider as a functions? Okay, so next I'll talk about like you have a knowledge of, I think you have a knowledge of APIs. So we have some get APIs, let's say GitHub APIs. So I can call the APIs on the browser, let's say api.github.com/user. That will give me the informations about GitHub users, 30 GitHub top 30 GitHub users. This is the APIs, and I can call these APIs from Vue.js, and I can create a simple web application where we can list down all the users of Vue.js GitHub. Okay, so here we can, what we can do here, I'll just create another functions, or the method name is get data. Okay, and here inside this method I can call the APIs. For calling the APIs, you just need to use fetch function. So here you can pass the URL. So let's say my URL of the APIs is this one. I will pass the API's URL, and this fetch function will work as a JavaScript promises. And you can handle these JavaScript promises with the help of then and get flow. So here, let's say this, if this logic is successfully executed, and then this will come in this particular part. And here we will get the data, or maybe here we will get the response. And this is a part of arrow functions. Here we are getting the arrow functions, and then we need to return the JSON file. And then this part is successfully run and executed, then we can have a final data. So this is a final data. Here we have a final data console.log. And similarly, you can print if there is any issue, so you can print these error with the help of catch block. So here we have a catch block. You can call you can print the error with the help of e part. Okay, so this is a part of JavaScript promises, like you can get the data from the APIs with the help of fetch functions, and this will work as a JavaScript promises. You can handle these things with the help of then and catch block. So we have a then properties where if the JavaScript promises is resolved, and so like we are converting this Java like response into the JSON file, JSON, and then again this will work as a JavaScript promises. So if this promises will resolve, and then we have a data, and you can print the data. Now you can call the functions on the button. So let's say I'm creating another button for getting a data. So let's say get data from GitHub API. Okay, so you can write v on click, and then if you can pass the function's name. My function's name is get data. So I'll click on I'll write this function's name is here. Okay, so what I'll do here, we have a date button. When I click on this particular button, I have a data, but I cannot check this data. So what I do, I just need to go to the inspect element. You can click on mouse second button, right button, and then we have an inspect part, or maybe you can use Control Shift I, and then you can go to the Chrome developer tools. And then we have a console window, so you can check out the console window, and then here we have a data. Okay. Okay, so I'll just once again, I will click on this particular button, and then here we have a data from this GitHub APIs. And this is an array of object, so we can perform some for loop, and then we can print the data. So what I'll do here, I can print the data in the UI part. So here, what I'll do here, I will create a user as a blank array. Okay. And whenever we are calling the APIs, we are getting this data, and then we can pass this data into this user array. Okay. So I'm storing this data into the user as a blank array, and then we can print the data. So what I'll do, I'll just remove this unnecessary part, and then I can print the user part, users. Okay. So here we have a users as a blank object. So I'll just reload the page. So as of now, we have a blank object. But when we click on this particular button, we have a data from the APIs, and then we have a JavaScript object, and we can print these JavaScript object with the help of for loop. So now in Vue.js, so like you can create a table. So I just want to print the GitHub user details in the table format. So here we have a table, and inside table we can create a row with the help of tr. And then here we have a table column. So let's say I wanted to print the GitHub username, and then I wanted to print let's say image. What will be the image for that GitHub user person? So here we can write image. Okay, and then there will be another row, and this row will be dynamic based on this particular data. So here we can apply for loop. So here in Vue.js we have a directive is v4. So here we can use a for loop, like we have a users as a JavaScript array of objects. So this is an array of object, and I want one object. So here we have a one by one object, and then there will be an index of each object, and then we can write in. So this is a logic for performing a for loop in Vue.js. Like if you are working on JavaScript, so we have a for loop, and here inside the JavaScript for loop, you just need to pass three things, like the initialization part, like let I is equal to 0, then I less than array of length, and then you need to increment the value of I. But if you are using Vue.js, so we have a v4 as a directive. You just need to pass here as a user the name of array name, and then here it will give me two things, like first is one by one object and the index. And here you can define the property keys. So you can define the key colon key is equal to index. Okay. Now we have a one by one JavaScript object. So I can give you the JavaScript object. So like we have a zero index. This is a JavaScript object, and here we have inside this JavaScript object we have a property. Let's say avatar URL. This avatar URL will give you the photo of the user, and similarly we have an event URL, or maybe you can use login as a username. So this is a JavaScript object. So here what I'll do here, we can write td, and we have another column. So first column represent as a username. So here you can use user, which is a JavaScript object. So this is a zero JavaScript object, and we can print the username with the help of login as a property. So here we can write login. Okay. And similarly, if you want to add some image, so you can add some image. So here we have an avatar URL. So this is a URL. With the help of URL, you can print the image. So how we can print the image? We have an image tag, and then here we can pass the value. So right now we have to pass, let's say, user dot avatar URL, but this will consider as a string. So you just need to add colon symbol, and then this will work as a Java view instance value data, and then we have a property name is avatar URL. So what I'll do here, I will save and I will comment this one part and just reload the page. And yeah, so as of now we do not have a data. When I click on this particular button, so we have a data from the APIs. So this is a username. This is a founder. He's a founder for GitHub, and this is another username image. You can call these APIs with the help of fetch functions, and then we are binding this data. Also, you can apply the style part. Let's say I'm writing some style. Let's say width is equal to, let's say you can hard code it the width, let's say 300 pixels. So I'll just click and just call the APIs. 300 pixels is too much, so maybe you can use 100 pixels. So you can check and just reload the page and click on call the APIs, and here you are getting the data from the APIs. Okay, and you can also add the table property. Let's say we can add a border is equal to 1, and then here you can get the data, and just click on the button, and then we are getting the data. Okay, so like again, Vue.js is very simple. You just need to focus on the core fundamentals. Like you can create a Vue instance with the help of new Vue as a predefined class. Inside Vue instance, you can define the property. Name is the element, means this element will work on this particular HTML tag whose ID is app. And then here another property is data. Here we can define the value data tag or data, or maybe you can consider as a variable. So here we have a variable name is message, and you can print these data with the help of double curly braces. Or you can also define the integer data, let's say number data a and b, and you can also print a and b with the help of double curly braces. And you can also perform arithmetic operations. You can write sum of a and b is equal to a and b. And the next part I have covered about calling JavaScript functions or view methods. So you just need to use v on and colon click. And here inside click, you can define the method name. So here, like after data property, then there will be a method block. And inside method block, you can define the number of functions. Let's say my function's name is increment data, and inside method you can access these data with the help of this keyword. So first you need to use this keyword and then the variable name. So when I click on increment data as a function, so this will increment the value of a. When I click on the button decrement data, so it will decrement the value of b. And when I click on the button for get data, so there will be a functions. And here we have a logic for collecting a data from the REST APIs, and that's it. So that's all. Like this is how we can create a simple web application with the help of Vue.js. And yeah, so if you have any doubt, you can ask your questions right now. And I have a resources. You can check out these resources for creating a Vue.js applications. Bit.ly/df. Okay, so this is a URL. You can check out this URL, and here we have a resources. So it's time for the questions. Like if you have any questions, you can ask your questions right now. I'm open for the questions. There will be a separate week for each framework. Like we will be having a 1 week for entire Angular, 1 week for React, and 1 week for Vue.js. So in this week, like I'm going to talk about like brief overview about each framework, like why we are using Vue.js, and why Vue is very simple, and how we can create a simple web application with the help of Vue.js. And then maybe after a month, there will be a separate week for building a web application with Vue.js or maybe React or Angular. Any questions, doubt, confusion? Yeah, Rajiv, for that you just need a basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Like if you have an idea like how we can create a simple web application with the help of HTML, this div element, p tag, button tag, and then you have an idea about like how we can write a CSS logic, maybe classes and the style part, and then you have a basic idea like how we can create a variable, how we can call the functions, and that's all the basic thing, basic idea, and then you can move to the frameworks. So that's all from my end. Thank you so much for being an amazing audience. And yeah, after the recording, maybe we can take up questions. Thank you.